What's up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky. And today's case is about a young teen girl who is plagued with feelings of inferiority, the need to be accepted, and jealousy. And when her reputation is threatened, she will stop at nothing to protect it. This is the case of Kirsten Costas. Listener's discretion is advised.
Well, hello to all of our LOTW friends and family.
Oh, hey there.
And hey, Bex.
Oh, hey, Bev. How's it going on your summer vacay?
I have enjoyed it so far. Craig had some time off. We got to celebrate our anniversary, which was super nice.
2 years?
Went to the Stamps game.
Oh, yes.
Craig got cussed out by an old lady.
No, he did not.
Yes.
How was that not the first thing you frickin' said to me? Tell me. Craig is like, he's a perfect human. Like, he's so kind, respectful. How in the effing world did he get cussed out? Tell me everything.
Well, not really cussed out. I shouldn't say that. That was an exaggeration slightly. But some lady, like, not so quietly bitched about him to the person sitting next to her. So Craig's sitting beside this lady,
Wait, was
right?
he hitting up the cowbell like hardcore?
No, that was me. I was sitting next to Craig. She did give me dirty glares, apparently. I didn't see them. I was too engrossed in the game.
Of course.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's literally at the end. It's in overtime.
Oh, shit.
Craig has been silent the whole game. Like, he claps, if anything. Doesn't scream like me.
Yes, he's like, yes, good job there, Stamps. You did well.
Yes. Go defense. Clippity clap, 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 right?
Touchdown.
And he, like, at the end, they were like, Winnipeg was trying to get a touchdown, and the Stamps.
Mm-hmm. Yes, carry on, Bev.
The Stamps got an interception, and he was
Whoa.
like, yeah, like, we both just out of excitement were like, yes,
Yeah,
like,
because
that's
that's
great.
so exciting.
Yeah, all we have to do is get a field goal now, and we win, right?
Right.
And as soon as he yells, this lady looks at the person she was with, and she goes, he just, like, screamed straight in my ear.
What a old grumpy biddy.
I know, and the person she was with, she's like, well, it is kind of an environment to, like, you know, be a little louder.
Yeah.
Like, kind of stood up for Craig, but Craig was
It's a
like,
sports game.
Jesus. Like, the one time he makes a sound the whole game, and she's like, ugh.
I bet that lady's a fucking pleasure in real life.
Oh, yeah, just an absolute gem of a human, right?
Yeah.
So anyways.
What an interesting time for someone to comment on that, though.
Yeah, like, literally at, like, the pinnacle of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. So anyways, all I could think was how happy I was that I was, like, slamming my cowbell the whole time screaming. Yeah, I was like,
suck on that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, how dare you be rude to my husband?
Yeah, how dare you? You know what, though? That lady, unbeknownst to her, Bev, she got lucky that day. You want to know why?
Oh, Mom.
Yes.
You're in Mom's seats.
Yes, because you were in Mom's seats and Mom wasn't there. Mom, we love her. She is loud at the game. She is the biggest fan. She will cheer her ass off. Do I blame her? No. But that lady doesn't know how good she had it.
Doesn't know.
Or how quiet she had it.
If only she had known,
only
she
she
would have been thankful for Craig's one scream of the
one
whole
outburst.
game. One outburst.
She might have shook his hand and been like, thank you, sir, for being so respectful of my fucking ears.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways,
Hilarious.
it was rather shocking. And I was like, why are you at a football game? Why?
If you don't like noise.
Stupid.
It is stupid.
Anyways, if you hear this lady that was sitting next to my husband in section F, row something, fuck you. Don't come back.
Yeah, don't go to that game again.
Lest you hear my mother. There you go.
Yeah, you'll think twice. And did the Stamps win?
Yes.
Yeah,
they
go
did.
Stamps, go.
They did try and lose.
They tried to lose?
No, but they did. Their
Their efforts reflected maybe a loss?
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of pulled out a win in the end?
Yeah.
Well, good for them, I guess.
It's just that they blew a lead, right? And so you were like, were you trying to lose, guys?
Were you guys betting on the game?
But I was really happy that they did win.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super
So,
awesome.
I do love the Stamps. Go Stamps, go. Woo!
Yeah, we will forever be fans. Just being from Calgary.
Yeah.
Go CFL.
That's right. Go CFL.
Yeah, we support you. We support you.
We do. The Canadian Football League.
That's right. All right, Bev. Well, enough about Canada.
Okay.
Because today's case is taking us all the way to Orinda, California.
Ooh, okay.
Now, Orinda is just 30 minutes away from San Francisco, and it is a beautiful city. It is surrounded by giant rolling hills, and in the 1980s, when our case takes place, Orinda was known for its wealth. The majority of people living there ranged from families who were well off to really well off. So there was a lot of nice cars, homes, schools, and pricey extracurriculars. One of the families that lived there were the Costas. There was Art Costa, who was married to Bernadette Costa, and they had 2 children, Kirsten and Pete Costas. Art was an executive, and his wife, Bernadette, was fortunate to be a stay-at-home mom. The family was super wealthy, they had the nicest things, they went on nice vacations, their children attended expensive camps, and they wanted for nothing. Now, this case is specifically about their daughter, Kirsten. Her family would describe her as the energy of the family. She was outgoing, she was a social butterfly, and she loved to have fun with family and friends. As Kirsten got older, she became well-liked by her peers. The girls either wanted to be like her or be her friend, and the boys wanted to date her. She was absolutely beautiful, and she also had a good head on her shoulders. She had a great future in front of her. In 1984, Kirsten was 15 years old. She attended Miramont High School. She was on the varsity swim team and had made it onto the cheer squad. Now, being a cheerleader at the time was a huge deal, and it gave a certain level of popularity. However, it was a big financial and time commitment. All the girls that made the team had to pay for their individual uniforms. As well, they had to pay for a week-long cheerleading training camp that was mandatory. And it was, at the time, around $500. And in the 80s, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, a decent amount for sure.
Yeah. On top of being a cheerleader, Kirsten was also invited to join the Bobolinks group. This was sort of a sorority group that also did a lot of volunteer work. And the individual members were called Bobbies, and it was by invite only.
Ooh, pretty prestigious.
Yes, so it only added to her popularity at the time.
Do you love true crime and travel? Having traveled the world solo the last couple of years and being obsessed with true crime, I found myself researching others who took the same vacations but never made it home. The Last Trip is a true crime podcast covering missing and murdered people that were living their best lives on vacation. I'm your host, Jamie Bevy, and each week I'll bring you on The Last Trip, taking a deep dive into vacation culture and travel spots, tips on staying alive while traveling, and ultimately recreating someone's last days in paradise. What led to their last trip? What are the hard facts? What is the final outcome? And could you be next? David Snedden was a 24-year-old college student from Utah attending Mandarin classes in Beijing when he mysteriously disappeared while hiking Tiger Leaping Gorge. Chinese authorities said he drowned in the gorge, and U.S. authorities agreed, although his body was never found and his parents didn't believe that. 7 years later, out of the blue, they got a phone call from a former U.S. official who had evidence David is still alive. This case sounds like a Hollywood movie, but evidence doesn't lie. So where is David Snedden? Famous rugby player and Celebrity X Factor contestant Levi Davis went missing in Barcelona last year while on a backpacking trip through Europe. Just days before he vanished, he posted a 15-minute video to his Instagram account saying his life was in danger and people were after him. After he disappeared, several theories emerged. But what really happened to Levi Davis? Join me, Jamie Bevy, co-host of the popular true crime series Strictly Stalking, as I embark on a brand new adventure combining true crime and travel. Listen to The Last Trip wherever you get your podcasts.
So eventually the school year wraps up and Kirsten is on her way to cheer camp. While she's away, on the evening of June 22nd, her mom, Beret, answers the family phone, and it was a teen girl asking to speak with Kirsten. And of course, Kirsten's not home. She's still at cheer camp. But her mom takes a message from the young girl, who said Kirsten was supposed to be ready to go to a secret Bobolinks initiation, and the following evening someone would be there to pick her up. Beret passed along the message to her daughter, and the following evening, Kirsten was ready to go. At around 8:30 p.m. that evening, Beret called Kirsten a check-in because the family was out at a function. Kirsten said she was just waiting to be picked up. Beret said to have fun and that she would see her later. Now, a little later that evening around 10 p.m., the Costas family friend Mary Jane and Alex Arnold heard a knock at the door. It was Kirsten. She asked if she could use their phone to call her parents to come get her. And of course, they had no problem with that. But while Kirsten was on the phone, they noticed a young female with a round face, light kind of brownie blonde hair, standing outside their house by an orangey red Pinto watching them. When Kirsten got off the phone, she had been unable to reach her parents, and she asked the Arnolds if they wouldn't mind giving her a ride home because her friend lingering outside had gone a little weird on her, and to be quite frank, she just didn't want to ride home from her.
Fair.
So the Arnolds, they understood and they decided to give her a ride home. Now, on the way, Mr. Arnold noticed that same orangey red Pinto was tailing them. He thought it was really strange, so he asked Kirsten if something was wrong. She said that it wasn't a big deal, but Mr. Arnold noticed that Kirsten seemed a little upset, but not overly concerned, scared, or nervous, so he kind of just let it go. Just a little after 10 p.m., Mr. Arnold dropped Kirsten off at her neighbor's house instead of her own because she didn't want to be home alone and her parents had not returned home that evening yet.
From the function.
Yeah. So Kirsten thanked Mr. Arnold for the ride and started walking to her neighbor's house. Mr. Arnold lingered for a moment to make sure she got inside safe, but he noticed as Kirsten walked up to the house, he sees a woman get out of the Pinto, run up to Kirsten. He initially thought that the girls had engaged in some type of physical altercation, and as quickly as it started, it was over. But Mr. Arnold sees Kirsten drop to the ground. It's at that point he sees the other girl yielding a giant knife. That girl then runs back to the Pinto and peels out of there. You can imagine his horror. Like, he helped this girl, he thought, keep her safe. I'm going to watch her walk up to the neighbor's house. And then this shit happens.
Yeah.
So he's kind of all frantic and he decides that he's going to follow this Pinto.
Whoa.
Right? But not long after he was tailing that car, he realized, oh my gosh, Kirsten probably needs my help more than
I need to follow this vehicle.
Exactly. So he goes back. By the time he gets back to the scene, Kirsten had managed to make her way up to the home of Arthur Hillman.
Her neighbor.
Yes. With all the commotion that had gone on, Arthur heard Kirsten's chilling screams and went to investigate. When he opened the door, he saw Kirsten bloody and stumbling slowly in his direction. She was saying, help me, I've been stabbed. When she got close enough, she fell into Arthur's arms. She was bleeding heavily, and her wounds were deep. 911 was obviously called. Mr. Hillman and the paramedics did everything they could to save Kirsten, and just as they were loading Kirsten into the ambulance, her family arrived home to this horrific scene.
That would be horrible to walk into. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're just leaving a function and be like, oh, that was so nice, so lovely.
Your daughter's being picked up by an ambulance. Terrifying.
Terrifying. Unfortunately, not long after the attack at 11:02 p.m., Kirsten Costas was pronounced dead at the hospital. She had 5 stab wounds. 2 were in the back, 3 of them were fatal, and she also had several defensive cuts on her arms. First of all, Bev,
she got stabbed in the back.
In the back.
Like, how cowardly. I hate that. Not that I would, prefer
in the front.
someone to, stab anyone, but, it's just,
a little cowardly.
Yeah.
The person had,
no chance
doesn't see it coming.
To do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, at this point, the Costas are devastated. Who would have done this to their daughter? Luckily, there were a lot of witnesses. And Mr. Arnold, the gentleman who drove Kirsten home, tells the police about the girl in the Pinto and the events of that night. Although they had a lot of pretty solid information, the police really struggled with this investigation because there was no physical evidence at the scene, and the Costas family didn't know who called and picked up Kirsten on June 23rd.
That's so unfortunate. They just knew it was a girl. They just trusted that this was just a legit phone call of a friend who wanted to pick her up or, whatever. Didn't think to even question it.
Yeah, ask who it was, nothing. They're just like, oh, it's a secret initiation. Yeah, we'll have her ready.
Absolutely. That's sad.
And unfortunately, the only vague information that the police had was that they were looking for a young girl with light hair driving an orangish colored Pinto. Do you know how many, in the 80s, Bev, do you know how many Pintos were around?
Probably a lot. I'm guessing it was a pretty popular vehicle.
Yeah,
It's a Ford Pinto, right?
Sure as shit was.
Interesting fact about the Ford Pinto is, like, back in the day, apparently, like, where the gas chamber was. The gas chamber. Makes it sound pretty.
The gas tank.
The gas tank. The gas chamber was in a precarious place in the vehicle. And apparently, when people would get rear-ended, even if it was at low speeds, the gas tank would crack, gas would leak, people would get locked inside their car, and it would burst into flames. And there was, like, something like 27 deaths or something as a result.
Oh my God.
Kind of interesting fact.
The not so good old Pinto.
Exactly.
Okay, so getting back to the case. Over the next 6 months, the police follow over 1,000 leads, and they speak with hundreds of people, including Kirsten's peers. They also examine hundreds of Pintos in the area, one of which belonged to the family of one of Kirsten's classmates. But all the interviews and searches did not yield a darn thing. Not a single piece of evidence was found, Bev. So with the police having no direction to go in, they decide to contact the FBI Behavioral Science Department to see if they could get a profile on their suspect. Which, fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love the Behavioral Science Department.
Yes, we do. Everyone's seen Mindhunters.
Hopefully they come out with a new season. I think it's on hold indefinitely, but if they do, I'm like hoping
and praying
for a new season. Damn you, Netflix.
I hope you hear this. Survive. So while the detectives were waiting for the profile, Bev, they kind of zone in and set their sights on one of Kirsten's classmates named Nancy Kane. The teen had a gothic look to her, and just before Kirsten was murdered, Nancy and her had a falling out, and their relationship was pretty nasty. It said that Kirsten was not the nicest to Nancy, so she may potentially have some rage towards her and therefore a motive. And that's why they kind of zoned in on her. Now, the police spoke with her and they wanted her to take a lie detector test, but her mother was like, "You hold the phone. She is not taking a test. I'm not going to incriminate her or put her through this." Unfortunately, the word got out that Nancy had been talking to the police about Kirsten, and the other students started to treat her differently because they, at that point, believed that she had killed Kirsten. Like, what a terrible kind of rumor and belief that is, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And they treated her like that and believed that without there being a single piece of evidence against her. Now, because of the harassment that Nancy faced at school, her mom moved her from Miramont High and enrolled her elsewhere. After everything with Nancy, detectives decide to speak to another classmate of Kirsten's, Bernadette Protti. Bernadette's parents had owned one of the Pintos that was searched.
Highly suspicious.
Highly suspicious. Now, a little bit about Bernadette. She grew up in Orinda just like Kirsten, but Bernadette came from a more modest household. Her family got by pretty comfortably, but they didn't have as much access as some of the other families in the area. Bernadette was pretty insecure about her family's wealth, and it negatively impacted her self-worth and confidence.
I could see that, especially in like a place where like you have a ton of rich kids, basically, right?
Oh, yeah.
You just feel a little different.
Yeah, like in no way was she poor, but being on that bottom scale of wealth, I could see how you'd feel not the greatest all the time.
A little inferior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we know, young teens are a bit more superficial like that. And Bernadette actually really envied Kirsten and her life. She wanted to be popular, rich, and accepted amongst her peers. And in 1984, Bernadette was also 15. And the funny thing about her longing to be accepted and popular was the fact that she wasn't disliked. She just wasn't necessarily part of like that super popular crowd.
Right.
Right? Like she still had friends. She was still social. So it's funny that she sees it as this huge discrepancy.
This huge gap between what she is and what she wants.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But really, she's close. She's close. So it's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
But I can see it, like, obviously, when you're that young, those things just, like, I don't know, they just matter a little bit more. Even though they do matter when you're older, like, there's still ways that you feel inferior to other people as you get older.
Oh, yeah.
It just is heightened in, like, in high school and stuff because, I don't know, it's just, like, almost like that is who you are, and what you are is what you wear, what you have, you know, what you're a part of, who your friends are. Like that is,
those are like the things that matter to you in that moment.
Yeah,
right?
It's like your world. So when those
everything.
things are just like not what you want it to be, it's like
life sucks.
Yeah, life fucking sucks.
And I find it funny too, because she was part of the swim team with Kirsten. She was a member of the Bobolinks with Kirsten. And she also worked in the school office, so she had all these commonalities with some of these popular people as well. So I find it just absolutely intriguing that she sees herself less than. However, with that being said, Bernadette suffered a couple major blows throughout that school year that did contribute to her feeling inferior and less than. And the major one was that she tried out to be on the cheerleading squad. But unfortunately, she was cut after the tryouts. She was absolutely gutted. She had worked so hard. And just when she thought things couldn't get any worse, she was denied a spot on the yearbook team. She felt horrible about herself, and it was a huge blow to her confidence.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was once cut from the basketball team after making like the first 2 tryouts, and I was mortified. I was so sad. And I never tried out for sports again after that.
Like completely discouraged you.
Yeah, I was totally discouraged. Then you see all your friends that did make it, and they get closer because they're at meets together and everything. They're at practice together, and you're just like, I'm not there.
I want to be a part of that.
You can't be.
Yeah, it sucks. So now we have this girl, Bernadette, who is so envious of Kirsten.
Yeah.
She has all the things that she wants, and detectives want to talk to her. And when they asked her about the murder, she said she didn't know anything. And on top of that, she had been babysitting that night. She said on June 23rd, her father drove her to a house close to home where she said she was babysitting, and her parents confirmed that story. And to boot, Bernadette did not have a driver's license at the time. So how could she have been driving that darn Pinto?
Fair.
To just make sure everything was what she said, detectives asked her to participate in a lie detector test, and she did. The results were inconclusive, but no clear deception. And so detectives let her leave, and once again, they're back to square one. Over the next couple months, Bernadette enjoyed her summer, just like all the other teens. She took summer classes, hung out with friends, and went back to school in September of that year. Now, jumping a little bit forward, in October of 1984, the FBI agent had sent back his profile of the suspect. He said it would be a girl around the same age and that they most likely knew each other. He also said that this girl would not feel remorseful for her actions. Now, around the same time that profile came in, a private investigator that the Costas had hired went to the police with new information. The investigators had gone to speak with the family that Bernadette said she was babysitting for on the night of the murder, which, to be clear, the police never followed up with them.
Which is shocking.
Yes.
I was like, confirm her alibi. Hello?
Yeah, and I think because her parents confirmed it, they were like, yeah, she was babysitting, didn't have a driver's license, no big deal, she didn't do it. But that family said that Bernadette had not been there that evening. In fact, she hadn't babysat for them for about a year.
Wow.
So everyone's absolutely shocked. Like, how did we miss that?
No kidding.
Right? Like, thank God for the private eyes.
No kidding, Becky. Thank God for the PIs.
Yes. And Bev, what's even more shocking is before dropping Bernadette off for babysitting, Bernadette had asked her father to leave the car in the driveway with her. And as we said, Bernadette didn't have a license, so at the time, he didn't see the point. Like, why would you need a car there?
Right.
And she told him she felt safer while babysitting if it looked like someone was at home.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I have to say, as a 15-year-old, I don't know. For me, I'm like, I would not think to say that, would you?
God, no.
So weird.
No, so weird.
But now, things are kind of coming to a head because we have Bernadette who lied about her alibi. She does have a motive, and now she has a vehicle that she could have used.
Yeah.
So it's looking a little bit like the evidence is pointing towards Bernadette at the moment, Rebecca.
That's right. You're really putting this puzzle together, Bev. And of course, with a little convincing, her father agreed to leave the orange Pinto with his daughter, and he walked home. Not long after this information came to the surface, the FBI agent who wrote the profile actually traveled to Orinda to help with the investigation. Specifically, everyone wanted to talk with Bernadette Protti again.
No kidding.
When the FBI agent spoke with Bernadette, he told her about the profile he had made, and to which she agreed that she sounded like the profile. But instead of admitting anything, she asked the FBI agent what would happen to the murderer, and said she thought that the public humiliation would likely be worse than going to prison. And the FBI agent and police thought this was such an odd thing to say, and they really felt that Bernadette was their prime suspect.
Absolutely. I mean, she's already kind of testing the waters to see what will the consequences of my action be, and then like kind of starting to visualize what would happen to her if she admitted to the crime, right? Like, oh, I'd go through so much public humiliation. Like, what? That'd be so much worse than going to prison. Like, number one, you can just see how she is like,
where her mindset is at.
Yeah, like so obsessed with her peers and where she stands in the world, you know, and just like how insecure she is about how it would damage her reputation if she came out with this. But yeah, definitely, I think this sentence seems incriminating, right? Like, what would happen to me if I did admit to this officer?
Well, because like what innocent person would ask that, like, hypothetical?
Yeah.
No one.
Exactly.
Just be straight up, I didn't do it.
Unless you were literally thinking about, God, what's going to happen to me? Like, why would you ask it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, even though everyone felt that she is responsible for Kirsten's death, they actually had no physical proof, so they let her leave. She went home. Following that interview, Bernadette felt the investigators were suspicious of her and ended up going home to write in her journal. And this is what she wrote. She did it in number form, just to be clear, so I'll read the number and then the point she's making.
Sure.
Number 1, I have caused a lot of hurt and pain to a lot of people. Number 2, I don't want to hurt people anymore. Number 3, I want to go to heaven when I die. Number 4, I regret what I did. Number 5, I can't bring Kirsten back or change time. 6, if I kill myself, I will hurt people even more, my family. I think I could kill myself. I would go to hell if I killed myself, though. I would rather kill myself than go on living if people knew. Although it's incredible. My parents are saints who would forgive and love me.
Damn, so she's all but admitted to the crime in her journal.
Yep.
But it is interesting that she regrets what she did. And it's like she's playing in her mind with these like, oh, she almost wants to get out of it by like killing herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then doesn't want to go to hell, which is such an interesting like thing to be toying with, right?
Yeah, and
Heaven
considering what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just a mixed bag of emotions and thoughts.
Absolutely.
For sure. And so not long after she writes in her journal, on December 10th, 1984, Bernadette had written her mom a note and left it on the counter for her to read. She told her mom not to read it for at least 30 minutes after she left for school. Her mom waited and opened the letter and read it. The letter says, Dear Mom and Dad, I've been trying to tell you this all day, but I love you so much, it's too hard, so I'm taking the easy way out. The FBI man thinks I did it, and he's right. I've been able to live with it for a while, but I can't ignore it. It's too much for me, and I can't be that deceiving. Please still love me. I can't live unless you love me. I ruined my life and yours, and I don't know what to do, and I'm ashamed and scared. Please don't say how could you or why, because I don't understand it, and I don't know why.
Wow.
Could you imagine finding that type of letter on the counter?
No. That would be, like, what would you do? Holy crap.
Well, I think I would probably do exactly what Bernadette's mother does, and that is she heads straight to her daughter's school to spend a little bit of time with her before she took her to the police station to turn herself in. It's like the inevitable, I know you're going to jail.
Let me get some time with you.
Yeah, these last moments with my baby, who up until this point was just this pure, innocent, sweet baby child.
But has now murdered somebody.
Yeah, so that must be really hard for her.
I'm sure the mom was just horrified and probably really sad about what was to come.
Oh, for sure. And later that day, Bernadette's parents took her down to the police station to confess everything. And what she told detectives was that she called Mrs. Costas the night before to relay her message to Kirsten. Then on the 23rd of June, she took the Pinto that her dad left behind and went to go pick up Kirsten. When Kirsten came up to the car, she wasn't impressed to see Bernadette and almost didn't get in the car. But Bernadette told Kirsten that instead of taking her to the initiation, she was taking her to a really cool, unsupervised party and thought they could go together. Bernadette was so desperate to become friends with Kirsten and thought this was the way to bond. On the way to the party, Kirsten wanted them to pull over in a church parking lot so that Kirsten could smoke some weed. At that time, the girls got into an argument. Kirsten thought that Bernadette was weird for lying to her parents to get her out of the house. Kirsten made Bernadette feel pretty stupid for not wanting to partake in the weed as well. It was then that Kirsten stormed out of the car to find her own way home. As she walked away, Bernadette watched Kirsten approach a house. This was the house of Mr. Arnold.
Interesting. Okay. So Kirsten is rude to Bernadette. I mean, I would think it would be weird too, right? Call my mom, leave a message to get her out of the house. Obviously, they're not
besties,
so it is weird.
It is.
But again, it probably confirms all of Bernadette's insecurities at this time, right?
Yeah, that Kirsten doesn't like her, doesn't want to be around.
Yeah.
That she's inferior.
Yeah, totally.
As we know, Bernadette followed Mr. Arnold and Kirsten, and it was in that short car ride that she realized that there was a huge knife inside the car. And when Kirsten got out of the car, so did Bernadette. She was worried that Kirsten would go tell all her friends what Bernadette did and how weird she was with the weed, therefore ruining her reputation even further.
This is a very interesting statement from her because it coincides with everything she said before to detectives, what would happen to me, the public humiliation would be worse.
Yes.
She's so worried about what people would think of her. And then it goes on to say, this is kind of the motive for the murder, at least from her account, right? She doesn't want to be seen by anybody as being this loser who didn't smoke weed or was weird and getting Kirsten out of the house. So that's what she's most worried about. And could you imagine? It would make sense that would be the motive for the crime.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when Bernadette approached Kirsten told her to get away. And that really pissed Bernadette off. And that's when they got into the altercation that Mr. Arnold saw. After she stabbed Kirsten a bunch of times, she got back into her Pinto and drove off. When Bernadette got home, she changed clothes, hid the knife, flushed Kirsten's small bag of weed down the toilet, and then went on a walk with her mom and their dog, just like nothing had happened. But the rest of the evening, she said, she was riddled with anxiety because she thought Kirsten told the cops who attacked her. And she assumed that the cops would be showing up at her doorstep any moment now. But that never happened. And the reason why she thought the cops were going to show up because she didn't think that she killed Kirsten. She just thought she hurt her. So the following day, when one of Bernadette's friends called and told her of the tragedy, she was shocked.
Right. That makes sense. But also kind of not. You stabbed the girl.
That's a risky take.
Yeah.
So when Bernadette found out that she had killed Kirsten, she went and cleaned the knife, replaced it in the family's kitchen. She then threw out the sweatpants and t-shirt that she had been wearing when she killed her.
Whoa, my God. Could you imagine? Just having to stare at the knife that you used to kill somebody? It just in your family's kitchen?
Every day.
What the fuck? That's
a
so
constant
trippy.
reminder. Yeah. She tells the investigators that she couldn't explain why she did it. She wasn't in her right mind. And if she had been in the right frame of mind, this would have never happened.
Interesting. Interesting.
It's not like you were crazy.
Yeah, it's not like anything extraordinary happened to put you not in the right frame of mind. You just got dissed a little bit.
Yeah, you were hurt and angry.
That was enough to quote unquote put you out of the right frame of mind to kill somebody? What the fudge?
Exactly. The one thing I can kind of understand is when you're a teenager, your hormones are raging, you feel all these different types of emotions, and sometimes it's hard to really regulate what's going on in your mind. So maybe to her, she felt that she was not in the right frame of mind because she was
obviously out
overwhelmed.
of fucking control.
Yeah, out of control, that's for darn sure. Now, the police get the impression that Bernadette felt resentful towards Kirsten, even though she envied her and wanted to be like her and liked by her. She had mentioned that Kirsten had humiliated her when they were on a ski trip with their class. Kirsten had made fun of Bernadette's cheaper skis. This comment implied that Bernadette's family was too poor to buy the nice ones and the nice clothing that everyone else had to go skiing in. She said that she felt the other kids were thinking the same thing, but Kirsten was the only one who spoke up. Bernadette said that despite Kirsten being rude, what grinded her gears the most were all the things that were out of her control. Her looks, her popularity, her family's finances. She just wanted everything that Kirsten had. But on top of all of this, she was adamant that she never planned to kill Kirsten. After hearing Bernadette's series of events and explanations, detectives had a lot of questions still. Number 1, if she was going to a party to impress the cool kid, why was she only wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants? And why would she have not smoked weed with Kirsten if she's trying to make a cool impression? Why not?
Those are some really good questions,
right?
Actually, yeah.
Number 2, why was the huge knife in the car in the first place?
Valid.
Yep.
Valid.
Very valid, I'd say. After this confession, Bev, Bernadette's arrested. But she is a little delusional because she asks when she gets to return to school. And obviously, we all know she's not returning.
Yeah,
like delusional.
Yeah, that is...
It's
well,
weird...
I mean, she did ask detectives what would happen to somebody who was found guilty of murder. Maybe she just was completely unaware of
that you go to jail.
The consequences.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But she asked it, and I can only imagine if I was a cop, I'd be like, never? Okay, cool.
Definitely not soon.
Yeah. So when the people of Orinda heard that a female classmate of Kirsten had been arrested for her murder, all the teens made sure they were at school the next day so that they could see who wasn't there so that they could know who did it. And they soon realized that it was Bernadette that wasn't there. Now, going into her trial, the question is not, did she do it? It's, was it premeditated or not?
Yeah, because she's already confessed to it. So it's like...
They know.
1st degree or 2nd degree or 3rd degree.
Yes. So Bernadette's trial happens pretty quickly, and it lasts 3 days. There was no jury, so the ultimate decision would be decided by the judge. Now, the prosecution argued this was a planned crime. Her outfit choice, knowing the knife was in the car, the phone call that she made to Kirsten's mom, and the way she got her dad to leave the car with her while she was so-called babysitting.
Mm-hmm.
And to top it off, how easily she lied about it in the first place to the police and FBI made them believe that it was all premeditated. They brought in classmates that believed that if Kirsten had offered Bernadette weed in her desperation to fit in and gain popularity, Bernadette would have never turned her down. So her own classmates were like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, Bernadette's defense lawyer argued this was all a crime of passion and that she truly wanted to win over Kirsten. And when she felt that her already inferior social standing was going to be jeopardized even further by this interaction, she just snapped.
Yeah.
To help Bernadette out, her sister testified that she usually drove the Pinto to work. And while on her lunch breaks, she would go sit in her car, cut up her fruits and veggies, as she was a vegetarian, and because of this would leave that kitchen knife in there for regular use. So it's totally plausible that it was just, hanging out. And
a crime of passion.
Crime of passion, yep. And
before we get into the judge's ruling, Becky.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Which one would you be more likely to believe? A crime of passion or premeditated murder?
Oh, man. I've gone through this a couple times in my own head, and I think you can really argue any direction. And so I really struggle. The true crime researcher wants to say, it was totally premeditated, she's horrible, blah, 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 blah. But I also recognize she's a 15-year-old girl who probably just was, so upset with the thought of, her image being tainted.
Mm-hmm.
And that she maybe did just snap.
I know.
I can see it from both points of view. However, she was pretty methodical with this whole plan.
She was, actually.
Could it be, so outrageous that she did all this planning to kill her?
It's not outrageous, no.
So that's the hard part, is that both sides, you can see them.
I could definitely see both. I'm absolutely split down the middle.
Yeah, me too.
When it comes to this, but luckily for the judge, he gets to make his decision based on evidence, right? So he can use that to pick a side, basically. As opposed to just, opinion and what he thinks might have been the case.
Exactly. And what he found is that the prosecution did not do a good enough job proving without a reasonable doubt that Bernadette had planned all of this. So the judge found Bernadette Protti guilty of second-degree murder and was charged as a juvenile because she was only 15.
Yeah.
I think this is a little shocking because she was only sentenced to 9 years in the California Youth Authority. And then she was released after only 7 years. She was 23 at the time.
Holy crap.
And she remained on parole for 2 more years. So by the age of 25, she's like completely cleared.
After brutally murdering a young girl.
Exactly. And it's shocking. And the Costas family was mortified that she would only serve 7 years. And they heavily spoke out against her early release. Now, after Bernadette left prison, she changed her name and moved out of California. I mean, I would too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, your reputation, donezo. Like, you could never be looked at as, like, a person ever again. Like, you couldn't start fresh. You'd be seen as a murderer, right? Like, people like that would follow you everywhere you went.
For sure.
Like, if you're out of prison, you best be damned. I would be changing my name too, right?
Yeah, and in
fresh start.
Such a close-knit community, everyone, you're like, yeah, you'll never live that down, right?
No, you need a fresh start to be able to move forward.
Exactly. So, like I said, she changed her name, and she had attempted to remain anonymous to her previous life, but people had their ways of finding her, so her name is out there on the internet, rather easy to find, so if you want, you can go look, but I'm not going to mention it here. Now, she did make the most of the following year. She went to college, got married, and had children. So it sounds like she maybe learned from her one really big mistake.
And is leading a somewhat normal life.
Exactly.
Damn.
As for the Costas family, shortly after the trial, they moved out of state. They moved to Hawaii. They couldn't stay in California and have all the reminders of their family tragedy surrounding them. Now, what's interesting about this case, there are 2 movies that have been made about this crime. One is called Death of a Cheerleader with Tori Spelling. It's actually pretty close in regards to the information, but it's not a very good movie. Just I'm throwing it out there, like, go watch it if you're really intrigued with this story, but it's not good. It's a bit of a waste of time, to be honest. And then there's another one, and it's kind of weird adaptation of this case, and it's called Landscape Suicide. I watched a couple minutes, shut it off. Again, wouldn't recommend it if you care about your time, but to each their own.
Damn.
Anyways, Bev, this is the sad case of Kirsten Costas, and that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing. And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.